thank you so much for joining me in person today on Misunderstood.
Well, thank you very much for having me over here. It's an honor to sit here by you.
It's such an honor to meet you in person. As I was telling you earlier, I've been listening to Cocaine Air, the podcast that's about your life that people must listen to. It's so good.
Thank you.
It's just so exciting to meet you in person. You're one of the most intriguing people. Your story is a story that most people have not heard but should. So I'm happy you're here. We're going to try and tell it in an hour so that people can hear about you and then get to follow more about you and potentially read a book that you may come out with eventually or see you in the movie.
Yes, I did. I'm very honored to be here, Rachel, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's start with your background. Before we get into the good stuff, I want to hear where you're from, the kind of upbringing you had, your family. Yeah. Tell us so we know who you really are.
Well, I come from a really, really close-knit family. I could go, and talk about this for days and days. My mom and dad, we were the kind of family that had to sit at the table together. My father was the son of an immigrant from Spain. My grandparents were from Spain. My father was born in Cuba. He grew up as a cane cutter. Hard work does pay. He was 10 years old and he was cutting sugar cane on the fields. Never went to school, my dad, because they were too poor. And eventually he became a sugar mill mechanic, and he turned that into a company that got contracts, and he started getting more and more fame as a very good mechanic in the sugar industry, which Cuba was the #1 country in the world to produce sugar.
Right.
He turned that into a multi-million-dollar company that actually later on in life, he started going to school at the age of 30-something, because that's the one thing he had never had, school. And he graduated from the University of Havana. I have his diploma here in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, where I live. 7 different degrees, and never practiced a one. So we come from a very, very basic type rooted company. In school, I had to sit in the table with my last button, all of us together, TVs off. I have 2 great sisters. I lost one to cancer. And the other one is an architect. I'm extremely proud of her. And, my dad was in the sugar industry, as I said. My uncle was actually shot in front of a firing squad in Cuba. So my father had to leave Cuba in a hurry, basically, because his life was threatened. And so he came basically without any money, but he was able to acquire a sugar mill that he had built in Haiti years before that. And then I lived in Haiti for 4 years, where there I learned how to speak Creole, French, and then Italian later on I learned because of my Lamborghinis. And so I speak 4 or 5 languages. But I was very young at the time. I was just a kid. And then my father decided that he wanted to reunite the family. My sister was in Germany studying German.
Okay. How old was she?
We were in early teens.
Okay.
Early teens, 12.
And was your mother
13.
Still around?
Yeah. My mom and dad was like a Romeo and Juliet story. I mean, they had the kind of marriage that I can only dream about. I've done it a few times, and I'll keep doing it until I get it right, Rachel.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, but it really, really was. So my dad went ahead, and then he became a builder in Florida. And
so you reunited the family in the United States?
Yeah,
okay.
Correct. And by the way, I was born in Havana, but I don't know Havana. I don't know Cuba. I came when I was a baby.
Okay.
So Miami's my home. It's what I know. And so years later, after I got a little bit older, like 12, 13, 14 years old, my dad decides at that point, it's like 18 or 19. Okay. My dad decides he wants to get back into the sugar industry. So all the funds that he has and all the money that he has, he puts into a sugar mill. We're going to buy another sugar mill in another country, put it on a barge, and then going to float it over to Haiti. Why Haiti? Because of the cost of labor. And Haiti was a country that needed an industry. And it was very favorable terms because you had a tremendous workforce. And my father already had 2 sugar mills that he had owned there before. So he had a lot of experience.
And he had the credibility there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct. So anyway, so he gets back into the business, and to make a long story short, he gets cancer. And I don't know this, right? And I need $14 million to finish the project. My father passes away. I'm at the age now, maybe 19 in that neighborhood, 20.
And were you working with him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my
So
father.
you knew the business?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
When I lived in Haiti with my dad, even though I was just a kid, he put me in the laboratory and he had me there. He says, "This is the heart of the industry. You must learn everything that you can here." So, and I was always like, my dad was like my mentor. To me, you know, God's up here. My dad was right underneath him. You know, I just worshiped him. I really do. I choke up every time I think about him. And so what happened was he gets cancer. He passes away. Unbeknown to me, he left me a manual that says, "In my absence, you shall do this and this and this." Now, on his dying bed in the hospital, he said to me, "Son, finish the project. Finish the sugar mill
So this
project."
was important to him.
Very, very important.
And he probably sees this as a path for you, as a lifestyle.
Oh,
for you.
yeah. It was a career. It was a lifestyle. It's our whole family grew up in that industry.
Right.
My mom's side of the family owned the biggest sugar mill of the world. And I don't know if you know what a sugar mill is all about or how much it's worth, but we're talking millions and millions. It's like $1 billion. Any small sugar mill back in those days was about $20-30 million.
Wow.
Back in those days.
Wow.
So
your father passes away, and I'm so sorry, and you are left with this weight on your shoulders. You need to get $14 million to finish this project. So talk to us about what happens here, because this is kind of the moment where your life changes. You're betrayed, and your life ends up shifting.
it didn't really change right there, Rachel.
Okay.
But it started me in a quest that I had. I'm not going to say I'm saddled with, but it's a quest that I needed to complete my father's sugar mill. And now I've got all the weight of the world on my shoulders, like you said, simply because I've got 2 sisters and a mom, and none of them have ever worked.
Right.
You know, we're all dependent on my dad's, backing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, everything that we own was put into the sugar mill project in Haiti. So now we're running the risk of having financial difficulties if I don't get this thing done. We had a bank commitment from Capital Bank, which is not the same capital that you see now. And the director of the bank, Abel Holtz, he's passed away since then. He gave us, we had a commitment from the bank for $14 million to finish the project.
Okay.
So what do I do after my dad passes away? I put on my best Brioni suit that I've got. I grabbed his briefcase. I went down to the bank and I said, "I'm here to execute the commitment, the bank commitment for $14 million. Well, Abel Holtz said to me, "I'm so sorry about what happened to your dad. He was a great man." He said, "But unfortunately, we cannot honor this commitment to you. Basically, you're too young." And he says, "And I got a board of directors that I have to answer to, and you have no experience at this level."
So they believed in your dad, and that's where the commitment came from. But once
yeah.
your dad
My
was gone, they said, "Now we're out." Okay.
Yeah, my dad probably, the loan was basically probably back in those days, where 60% of the project was based on my dad's history.
Right.
And the fact that he knew the industry really well, and he had experience in that country.
Right. Right.
Plus, we had already commitments from the government to allow us to take the money out of the country, tax exemptions for 30 years. We had 30,000 acres under contract. So, I mean, it was all backed by
And I want to reiterate, this was all legal stuff you guys were involved in, right?
course.
And this was like, this was
Yeah.
a great way to make money and a real way to make money.
multi-million-dollar business,
Right.
multi-million-dollar business.
Right.
You know, right now the biggest sugar mill in the world is owned by the Cubans here in Clewiston of the world, Fanjul. They're the owners of that was along with my dad when they first started all that.
Wow.
And so anyway, so I went there, and then he told me that I was too young and inexperienced to honor the contract. So it was like a bucket of cold water, you know. It was like, now what do I do? So I went back down to the car. And now what do I do? He told me, "I'm going to refer you to maybe more of a liberal type of lenders." And I think it was a nice way of letting me down.
Sure.
Because he just didn't want to just shut the door like that on my face. You know, he's just gone through this tragedy. And so I went and I knocked on the door, said he told me to go. Same answer, same thing. I didn't get anywhere with that. I started seeking other sorts of financing, and I spent maybe 2 years looking for money. As the time passed by, I still had the responsibility of maintaining and supporting an office in Haiti with employees. you know. And
So was it self-sufficient enough that you were able
no,
to
we
pay?
hadn't started.
Well, you hadn't started.
We bought
I
a
see.
sugar mill in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
That I owed the government of Puerto Rico $780,000. Imagine that, 19, 20 years old now. I owe over here $1 million. I need $14 million to finish the project, develop the fields, the foundation, get a barge. You got to put the sugar mill, dismantle it, break it down, put it on a boat, float it over to Haiti, and then bring it back up again.
Right.
So it was like a major undertaking.
So where do you go next? Because I know there was a commitment from somebody, and $100,000 thing happens to you.
Yeah, I go see this private, well, not really it was a lender, you know, he owned a mortgage company, you know, had a lending company. So I went to see him. He wasn't a bank, but he was like a mortgage type of lenders. So I went to see him, and then his name is Ruben. Ruben told me, he said, yeah, we could do this. We could do the $14 million. So I have sources that we could handle a loan of that nature. He said, but you're going to have to deposit good faith money. And you would say, well, why would you deposit any good faith money? Well, believe it or not, it's actually something that was I'm not going to say super normal, but it was normal in the industry. Because what they would do that is to separate the BS from reality. In other words, if you can't bring in $100,000 to put it in an escrow account in good faith, which is not supposed to be touched, then I don't want to waste my time with you.
Okay, I get it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I didn't think nothing was going to happen to the money. So I took $100,000 and I gave it to him. And then I got a commitment for $14 million. I walked out of there like I had, you know, floating on the air. I thought, well, my gosh, I'm going to get this thing launched finally, a year and a half later, right? And I'm still at it. So now I've got this commitment and life is great again. Well, one day turned into a week turned into a couple of weeks turned into a month. And every day was always mañana, you know, tomorrow. I said, when are we getting this thing funded? And then it just wasn't happening.
Right.
And he already had the $100,000 on that side of the fence.
And then did he not want to give it back to you when you finally asked for it?
No, yeah. Well, what happened was I'm walking into his office and I hear screaming from inside the building. So I freeze when I hear all the screaming, and the door opens up in front of me, and this guy's fuming. It's right on my face. And then I said, what? And the guy goes, what? What do you mean, what? And then the guy, I said, what's going on in there? He said, I just got ripped off by this thief. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, Ruben, this son of a blah, blah, is a thief. And I said, I gave the guy $100,000. He says, you got nothing, kid. Wow. He said, your money's gone. This guy's a thief. I'm going down to the authorities to file, you know, charges against this guy.
Right. So now you're out $100,000.
Yeah.
On top of everything else.
Yeah.
Do you take revenge on this guy? What do you do?
Well, that was really scary moment and an empty feeling. I'm like really inexperienced. You know, I always lived under my dad's shadow, even though I know a lot about business, but I've never really had to face these type of situations, right? And so I went out back to the car and I had to regroup. I had to sit there and, you know, turn the car on, and I turned on the AC. I didn't know where to go. And then I said to myself, if I go to the authorities, I'm already behind this other guy that's going down the file. I said, I'm never going to see a penny of this thing. It'll probably be 3-4 years before he goes to court. By that time, the guy's going to file bankruptcy. I know enough about business to know I'm not going to see a penny. So I said, I got to take a different approach. I need that money, and I cannot afford to lose that money. So I asked myself, I'm just going to go out and kidnap the guy.
Well, you don't, right?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, tell me what happened.
Well, you know, look.
That couldn't have gone very well.
Actually, it went really well.
Okay, tell me.
Not for him.
Right, obviously.
The way I looked at it, Rachel, was really simple. The guy's committed a crime.
Yeah.
So I kidnap him. What's he going to do?
Right.
Call the authorities that I kidnapped him? He's already ripped me off for $100,000. So I've got a little leverage there.
Okay.
And I tricked him into kidnapping him. I created a whole scenario with some buddies of mine. I called a couple of buddies of mine and said, hey, guys, I had some pot smuggling friends of mine. By the way, I've never smoked even a joint, okay? I don't do drugs. Yeah. And so I called up my buddies and I said, listen, I need to borrow your farm. They had a farm out in the Everglades, not in the Everglades, in South Miami. Okay. And this is where they stored a lot of weed. Big barn, acreage, you can't hear anything, right? So I said, I want you guys to play the part of Texans, you know, like really, really rich oil guys. So he said, what do you got going on, T? I said, well, here's what I want you to do, man. This guy ripped me off for $100,000. I need to get that money back. So what do you want us to do? I said, what I want to do is put this guy in one of your barns.
Right.
And I want you to help me get him there. So, okay, what do you want us to do? So I said, I'm going to call up Ruben and tell Ruben that I got these rich oil guys that are coming in town. Maybe he would like to meet them, and they could become potential investors for him. So he said, all right, fine. So I used that line. I called Ruben, and I said, hey, listen, I got these guys, the oil guys, and they're looking to get some property, and they've got tremendous amount of access to funds for real estate. They're not interested in helping me in Haiti because they like United States. Maybe you'd like to meet these guys. So he said, absolutely. So I said, give me your address. I'll pick you up. So he gave me his address, and then I went. I picked them up with three guys and myself. Four.
Right.
So I had
and is it like out of the movies? You put a bag over his head, shoved him in the car?
No.
Okay, so he didn't realize he was getting kidnapped.
No, he thought we were going out for breakfast.
Okay. How long did you have him?
Long enough to beat the hell out of him.
Okay. Did you get your money back?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ask for interest?
I actually got more than what I wanted from my money.
Okay.
Because he couldn't pay me with cash.
Okay.
Okay? He didn't have the cash because he had gotten rid of my cash. So he says to me, we walk into the farm, right? And I said, listen, these guys are looking at a ranch. Maybe you might want to see it, you know? He said, okay, yeah, let's go look at it. So when we pull into the ranch, you got the gate, the whole thing. We go inside this house. My two friends go in first, you know, and then he goes in, and then I go in, and then as soon as I go in, my other buddy's in the door. At this point, I tap him on his shoulder, and I say, hey, Ruben, turn around. And I slap him as hard as I could. And I don't know if you know this, that I'm a karate instructor for many, many years, real karate, not the BS stuff that you see in the movies. You know, we train on concrete floors. And so I don't take candies from babies. I don't go around kicking dogs, but I also don't like to get abused.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to hit the guy really, really bad. I need the guy alive.
Yeah.
I don't need him dead. I need my money back. That's all I was
But you
after.
need to get him to be so fearful that he's going to produce
that's right.
the money.
I really play rolled that thing to the max, but you know, with a lot of theatrics, but I beat him.
Right.
You know, so I grabbed him. He turned around. I slapped him hard. I grabbed him by the ear, and I looked at him, pointed my finger in his face. And I said, "If you don't give me my effing money back," I said, "look out that window. You're never going to see that sun again. I can promise you this." And at that time, Rachel, I don't even know how far I would have taken it because I was living that moment.
Right.
I wanted my money back. I didn't want a penny over what I gave you. Just give me back what you took from me.
Right.
I need it.
So what did you get? Because he obviously, you said he didn't have the cash.
He didn't have the cash. So he says to me, I can give you cars. So I say, cars? What are you talking about, cars? You know, at that point in life, I love cars, but I'm not in the car business. So what Ruben was able to do, he's such a con artist, this guy. He was able to, he says, I can give you cars. He had a connection in a bank in Cayman, if you could believe this. Cayman is like a haven for money laundering, money outside the United States. We had a contact inside the bank. So we went to a dealership, and I knew enough to not want to talk to anybody in that dealership. So he says, I can get you cars. So I said, all right, fine. I'll give you, I think it was a dime or a quarter on a dollar because I'm not in the car business. So we went over there, and I'm now picking out a car for $50,000, which is going to, you know, I'm going to acknowledge maybe 10 grand, 5 grand, depending. I walked out of there with a whole bunch of cars. Ruben gave them a cashier check from the Cayman Bank, which the dealership verified in the bank that the check was good.
Okay.
Well, 10 cars come out of that lot. And I knew enough to get those cars immediately taken and changed titles.
Right.
It's not my problem. I got cars. I didn't take those cars. Ruben sold me those cars. So I didn't get them from the dealership. He paid for the cars.
And what kind of cars are these?
No, high-end cars, Mercedes-Benz.
And is this how you started your car dealership?
No, this is how I got my $100,000
Oh, my
back.
goodness.